What is life? Sunday, June 5th, 11:30 p.m. I don't know. That's all I really think about. That question just occurs to me perpetually. Anything I do, anywhere I go, I had some good thoughts before I turned this thing on and just whoosh right out of my mind. I don't want to be here very long. I'd like to be doing something else, but sometimes that question just hammers you. And I noticed that the things that occur to you as an answer, off the top of your head, are always, question mark, a direct reflection of your current emotional state. How do I feel? I don't want to talk about it. It's something I've learned to do out of necessity, is to change how I feel. And I feel the urge to do that coming on rapidly, right? So at a moment, like, not for performance at all, regardless. I just decided to turn this on and maybe speak to it. So I'm not going to dance or that's not the point. So how do you feel about how you feel? You know? I don't like to admit that I'm unhappy when I'm unhappy. If you ever catch me complaining about something, chances are I'm not that unhappy about it, And that's a performance that we do in life, I think. If I can't deal well enough with my emotions, I ask myself the question, well, what is there to be done? Not about how I feel, but just generally. deeply question the wisdom in that. Honestly, not suspiciously or it's not a disparaging question, you know. I can't tell if my drive away from self-reflection at certain times is a diversion and therefore, an avoidance of something that's necessary, or if it's a marker of resilience, I have nothing to say. It's been about 5 minutes. I should cut this off. Get back to doing something, And in that, you have an answer to what life is, If that's what you are, if that's who I am at the moment, that's what life is. Self-reflection and diversions, and a cataloging of which places within me are the least conducive to reflection, are the most opaque, or the most transparent. It's interesting how you can conflate those terms and get the same meaning in certain contexts. Can't be seen. Unknowable, unknown, things that are transparent and things that are opaque. One you can't see into and one you just can't see because you look right through it. I feel both ways. I guess I'm just searching. I almost always find something for you, but tonight, within myself, I don't know that I've found anything at all that's new that I could share. I want to sit here for a little while. Maybe I'll edit this so it'll be shorter. Maybe I won't post it at all. What is life? Control of other people, discipline within oneself, control of oneself, both, a partial balance between the two, mastery of the physical world, serendipity, you know? Who are you? Do you ever read Sophie's World? Who are you? It's a children's book, a young adult book, about a fictional character who gets a letter in the mail from the main character, who in the book is reading about this fictional character, Sophie. It creates an interesting, recursive cascade, because you eventually realize that you're reading the book about the characters, you know. It does not suggest reality is an illusion or anything like that, but it's a interesting literary motif. I think it's unique, you know. It really pulls the reader into a broader realm of consideration. Who are you? That's like the premise of the book, essentially. So what is life? Are you a controller of people? Are you a master of yourself? Are you master of the physical world? Or are you a follower of serendipity? Obviously, we're necessarily all of those things, you know. And how aware are you when you're being what? And then the all-important philosophical question, how do you know? Are you sure? Are you sure you're sure? How do you know what life is? How do you know who you are? How do you know what's going to happen? Are you sure? Are you sure you're sure? I answer these questions very gently, because you can't learn any other way but by doing. And because of that, it's a very bad idea to bet all your chips on things that you're not sure about. What is life? To some people, it's a game where they mitigate that liability by betting other people's chips. You know? They make choices concerning things they're not sure about for which they would lose all their chips. But by whatever custom, they buffer themselves and have other people lose their chips for them. Only human beings do this. Strange creatures. And over time, the ones who are best at betting chips survive, and the ones who are not do not. There's no well, that's just how it is. I'm angry about something. I've been angry about something for a long time, and I just don't speak of it. And I've been trying to let it go. Well, I have. I let it go. But I'm reminded of it. This is one of the more difficult talks I've had to give. And honestly, it's not that important to me. It's really not. Ego and vanity. I admire pride. I admire conviction. Uselessness. I don't admire uselessness. How are people who are fundamentally useless become powerful? It must be because generally speaking, human beings are good internally. Good people. They're very gentle. They're very forgiving. They allow the useless to thrive, but how they get there in the first place is what I don't understand. Maybe they learn to be useless over time. You know, once upon a time, they were not. Nature, as I referenced, you know, evolution previously, does not care. You become useless, you're out. So, what is life? Being useful to other people? Perhaps. Perhaps so. I think that's the closest thing to an explanation I've ever found. I've always striven after that. Like, there's better answers that are fancy and more beautiful, but they're harder to realize, to do. But if you can be useful to other people, that's something I've always put maximum effort into. I say gotta go fast, you know, vroom vroom. Like, I think I've rethought that. I think what I mean is maximum effort. You know, like if I ever meet someone who's faster than I am, I'm not compelled to go any faster than whatever my maximum effort is. You know. I'm a little scatter-minded. I can't tie that into what I was just talking about off the top of my head. But I try to put as much of myself into something, into whatever I do, as I can. That's why I like to have things that are under my control, because typically there's only so much of you that someone else wants in whatever it is that, you know, they've granted you access to or you've found of theirs. Which is quite hypocritical considering how invasive other people can be about what is yours, you know, and how touchy they can be. I'm going to change how I feel now. Life is quite beautiful. It is quite grand. I mean, it's so good that, you know, whatever happens, whatever you get out of life, like, it can be considered a delicacy. Existentially, you know. If you lived forever, if you could live as many lives as you wanted, you know, you would be a pauper sooner or later. You would be you want to know and do it all. If you realize that, whether or not you live forever or have lives or whatnot, you can appreciate the singular beauty of your own existence and be proud, genuinely proud, without pride, that you generated of your own nature effortlessly and uniquely. There would be no other source. What a tragedy it is that you would trammel, that anyone would trammel upon anyone else's life, anyone else's delicacy, you know. I mean, we do live on Earth. We do live on Hell Carnivore Planet, for sure, you know. The reason we're here is because life tore itself apart, limb from limb, for sustenance, for literally billions of years. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the fucking grinder that this place is and has always been up until very recently, when the little portion of it that we are, us, woke up and opted for something different slowly over time, gaining more and more control over the world and ourselves and each other. Although that's wily, because we're all more or less as smart as the other, you know? No one's that much smarter than anyone else. No one's that much stronger than anyone else. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's within a factor of 2. But definitely not remarkable. What was I saying? Hell planet, eat people. Oh, trembling on, yeah, so every life is a delicacy. That's not an opinion, you know. And if you would challenge that, then you instantly negate the value of your own. I'm so angry. So angry. How would you not appreciate the tact in this? Do I have an enemy out there? Is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Is there someone out there that would trammel the delicate flower that is my life, thereby making a hypocrite of themselves and everyone they associate with? Hmm? No? Well, I've been under a lot of stress for a long time, trying to be a decent person. You have no idea how stressful it is living an honest, upwardly mobile life amongst other people who are, don't have a lot of interest in cultivating the self. Have no realization that to cultivate the self is to cultivate respect in other people. The more things that you value in yourself, you can't help but notice all around you, given how similar the nature of human beings fundamentally is. You can argue that that's not true, but again, how do you know? And you demonstrate that you are as unworthy as anyone else, unless you come out and say that you are more special than other people. I fucking dare you to argue that. Argue in public, openly. Justify some decision that you make by saying that you are special and deserve to be treated as more deserving or sacred than anyone else. And watch how the people that you depend on, no matter how close they are to you, begin to react. This is human culture 101. This is how it's been since we opened our eyes and became men. If nothing else, realize about me that I'm the kind of person that understands that. And well, you gotta ask yourself, what else might this guy understand? You know? I have the kindest of hearts. Truly. But I hate ugliness in people. I dislike being treated unfairly, but I tolerate it. Don't think that means I accept it or don't notice. And most of all, what is it? What should you know about me? I don't think about you. Unless you get in my face. Or something reminds me of you. You know. We happen to share a proximity in time. But as far as people, as far as character goes, we couldn't be further apart. You're only as important to me as you are. And the less we intersect this time and place, the better for both of us, it would seem, given your attitude. I want to offer something of substance. It's just a bunch of words. I have some things I could offer, I guess. They're not tributes, but they're laying out moves on a board. I think you're just bored. I think you just like to play this game. You want to save face. You either enjoy this or you've been embarrassed. Which is funny. You should only be embarrassed that you're embarrassed. To whom do you have something to prove? I hope it's on me, because, I mean, I know you, you know? I know everything there is not to like about you. Because it's not unique. It's all people. You're just a reservoir of it. No, I don't know. I don't care. I really don't care. I can't control you. I can't control what you do. I can't control how you feel. And I wouldn't want to. I have my own life, believe me. More than enough. You know, you've heard that from me before. This is just a matter of face, isn't it? Well, I have my own list of things that are unforgivable, you know. And, I wish you took your pride, your sense of face, or whatever it is that's wounded in you, as seriously as I took my own, which is to say, not very. It's a small part of this thing that is called life, you know, and it's something that can be outgrown. I suppose this is a test, in a way. These things happen sometimes, organically. Can you outgrow this, you know, genuinely? If you just suppress it, that won't satisfy you. Can you change? I certainly can. Despite the impediments that you throw my way, you know? Resources you waste. Have you nothing better to do? Sometimes I think people, generally, I think they're just terrified of me. Not my actions, not my, like, monster hands, but I don't think I've ever met anyone that didn't think that if I wanted to, I would, like, morally or philosophically dominate them across a table. Which I wouldn't do. Like, that's the irony. If I don't want to fucking talk to you anymore. So, that's not where I'm going with this, but I mean, all the problems that could have been solved by us face to face my whole life, kind of assume people were much more callous than they probably are. I think people just don't want to get in the ring with me, you know, the like intellectual ring. There's language barriers to consider, you know, for sure. People just don't want to be embarrassed. And the kicker is, the irony is, I've always striven to be, at least be able to be, the kind of person who would never embarrass. Return benefit for harm. That is who I am. or that's who I struggle to be, fundamentally. That's such a core part of who I am that it drives almost everything that I do. And if it doesn't seem like that to you, it's because you don't live that life. And you don't understand what is necessary. Although you could. I don't like conflict with people. And I refuse to feel shame that isn't my own. You know, I have plenty of things that I'm embarrassed for in my life. I'm ashamed of. And they become less and less the more I reflect. I think if I return enough benefit for harm, I earn myself somehow the time that reflection is required to become a better, a more perfect human being. Although, a delicacy, I certainly am already, as you are. Maybe that's something you don't understand about me, is that I honestly don't put myself above you or anyone. That's what's odd. I don't put myself above you, but I also don't put myself above the people you put yourself above. So I'm like this confusing, it fucks with your head. You don't know where I am in the social hierarchy. And like, you fucking need that, because you're fucking crazy. You don't even know you're crazy. Being critical is not putting myself above you. Being critical is not wishing you harm. We could talk about these things. Any two people could talk about these things. I don't know. Maybe you've just given up on life and you think that everything that you've seen is all there is, you know. And maybe even some things that you saw that you thought were beautiful and worthwhile are illusory. And you were a fool to even believe or hope. And you've hardened yourself now. And this whole deer dance is proving that to your clique or to yourself. You're a fossil. The generation gap between people older than I am and people younger than I am has never been wider. You don't live in reality anymore. And if you go out and operate in it, you're going to find out real quick, real fucking quick, how thorough, complete, accurate your understanding of the way things actually are. All your chips. For what? The world is bigger and more complicated than any one person can understand. It is an unpredictable place. You would not want it any other way. What you want is a platform, a safe place, a haven, which you have. from which you can go out and experience that wild unpredictability and then return to rest and be nourished. The world outside your walls is not to be tamed. It can't. And I'm a part of that world, as far as you're concerned. Any victory over me be symbolic. But the cost would be concrete. And if you got rid of me, like so many people have been gotten rid of before, really, come on. The story of your life, or the significance of my disappearance, might not unravel the way that you, not even close to the way that you think it may. You may experience and have to live through something unprecedented. Not magical, not, I'm not going there, but might be a lot more trouble than it's worth. I'm developing a way of life, and a phase of that was not taking shit from anyone, and you're quite rude. Your kids. You don't have good discipline over your kids. They're going to suffer for that. No one's going to make them suffer for it, but they're going to make their lives uglier than they need to be. So yeah, I didn't take shit from anyone for a while. It's kind of awesome. It's a phase. It's part of growth, Could I do that? Am I strong enough? Apparently so. It's just an ingredient into a way of life that I'm kind of exploring as I invent. I'm just learning about. There's a certain kind of person I want to be. And believe it or not, nothing has deterred me from going that way. And so in that sense, I'm quite pleased. In that sense, I'm honestly, if I think about you as part of the world, not another mind, I'm honestly grateful to have met you. And that's the benefit for harm part. If I realize that, if I realize the truth of what we are to each other, I'd have to thank you. Truly. I've never done this before. I've never been through this. No one explains to me this is how life works or can work. But here I am. Here we are. This is my best attempt to say to you what I would say were we across a table. I know you must be the same way. Obviously, a very different manifestation. I'm sure you find the idea of having similarities with me grotesque. I don't suggest that. All I mean is that you're a seeker, of a good life, of an ideal, of something. You have a picture in your mind of the way things ought to be. And you strive to achieve that, to realize it. I appreciate that about you.
I appreciate that about anyone like that. I must imagine that in your picture of the world, ideal world, I am like a very ugly spot, right? And I can appreciate why you wouldn't want me there. I assume the inverse, the reciprocal, is the same for you. From my point of view, you are a very ugly spot. I wouldn't want you there. How many times has that happened throughout life? I mean, like life. Human history. That's the story.
If there was one takeaway that I would submit, regardless of how it reflected on me, I would say this in full honesty. I couldn't think of anything better to say. And that is, I am tired of that story. And it distresses me. It disturbs me. How inescapable it is. And it makes me wonder, independent of you or any mood I have or life situation, philosophically, in the way, what is life? How do you know? Occurs to me. Like, why is it so pervasive with us? Why is it like that? I just wish I had time to think.